Welcome back to Josh's Green Garage. So in this video, I am going to go over wheel weight install on these wheels. So I just put these wheels on and tires and just went out, plowed a little bit. We had probably, I don't know, 6 to 7 inches of snow somewhere in there. So I plowed that up real quick, see how the tires worked out. But now I'm gonna get into one of the reasons that I went with these wheels and some ag tires. Reason being, weights. You can't put wheel weights on the factory aluminum wheels that come on the 700 series now. So got these wheels to do that. Now, if you've been watching my videos and were watching around the time that I had the X580, you would have seen me put a set of wheel weights on there using a setup that looked about like this. Maybe you don't remember the yellow cap. I can't remember if I showed that in video at all because I kind of got those afterward. But I found some yellow caps just to dress up the ends. But essentially, I can't remember the length of this bolt offhand. I want to say it's 7 inches. I'll put it on the video here. But this stud would be just a hair too short, I think, if it was in there. It comes just beyond this outer lip, and I think the mounting point on the wheel weights is right around that same area. So it'd be close, but you'd maybe be able to get a bolt on there, but no lock nut or anything, or a lock washer. So it would definitely be a tight fit. So what I'm going to do now, I also purchased an additional set of wheel weights for this. So now I have 2 for each wheel. I bought some all thread, and I'm just going to make my own studs this time. So I'll bring it over here and show you what I have in mind. All right, so the setup is going to be vastly similar. The only difference is the actual stud material. So I looked for some longer bolts. The only problem is when I went up a size at all, they all had a lot longer of an uncut thread length. And I wouldn't be able to tighten it down to the wheel like I was on the X580 using that same setup. I wanted to do that because having those solid studs in there I thought was really nice. So I'd like to retain that. But what I'm gonna do is, I got this all thread. I bought a bunch of nylon lock nuts. I'm gonna put that through there, thread this on, get it where I want it. And then I'll have this opposite end supported by a jack stand. I believe I showed the process of doing, a jack stand installation on the X580. I can't remember for sure. But essentially, you put a jack stand out there, it supports this, and then you can slide your wheel weight on and install. That's how you would do it without studs the way I did, but that's how I'm going to figure out my thickness. So I'll show that whole process of how I'm figuring out how long these need to be, and then I just got to cut 8 of these, and we'll be good to go. So let's get into it. So first thing I'm going to do, slide this all thread into there, and then adjust my jack stand to support it. It's about all the way, well, the jack stand's all the way up, but that's all right because this is pretty level. From there, I'm going to go inside. This specific, is 1/2 inch all thread, so the nut for it ends up using a 3/4 inch socket. I doubt there's too much variance in that out there, but if there is, at least now you know the size. So I'm going to thread that on there. Guess I don't really need an extension like I thought. And then I'm going to tighten that until I just see a thread come out. It's hard doing this without anything holding this all thread. I'm just going to take a paper towel and a set of pliers just to keep from messing up the threads, which I have a tap and die, I can fix that. Forgot one piece. I have here, these are 3/8 inch flat washers, but I put them in the vise and drilled them up to 1/2. Reason being, there's not much room on the back side before the edge of it would hit the rim. So you need something a little more low profile. but it still needs to be a 1/2 inch. And a 1/2 inch flat washer is more loose on here than I'd like it to be. So I drilled them up. We'll put that on the back too. The only reason I'm doing that now is because I need to account for the fact that that'll be extra space needed. And then I'm going to just take a paper towel with pliers and use that to keep this all thread from spinning as I tighten this. All right, I got that just to where I can feel the end of the stud coming out. Still looks like it messed up my threads a little bit, but that'll be all right. I can run a die over that and clean those up. Okay, so from this point, I'm just gonna pull this all the way out till that sits tight against the wheel. And then I'm gonna attempt to, can't really see it, so I'm just gonna have to feel, make sure that washer is sitting flat, and it is. Cool. Now I have my wheel weights over here, and I'm gonna start trying to slide them on. Of course, line up the notch with the valve stem, and we'll slide it back. This is a bit tedious by yourself. Now, I'm sure there's a way you can measure this that would make it a little bit easier, but I prefer to do it like this. That way I know I'm getting the exact length. Okay, so there's one. I'll put on the other one and we'll be back. Here we are with the second weight on. That one went in a little bit easier now that I actually did it with that long of a piece of rod that much, but so everything's tight in here. Now I just got to make a mark on there so I know where to cut. Now when we're making our mark on here, we got to think we're also going to have, well, at least I have a lock washer there, and then the nut, and then I have this rubber cap. So I need to make sure that I leave room for all of that stuff and enough room that that cap can, you know, have enough room to bite. So I actually remembered I had this little measuring tool, and I was able to put that in there, figure out where I needed to be. So now I'm going to cut that and cut another 7 more, and we'll be back. Alrighty, I got my 8 bolts. These ended up being, I believe, 10.5 inches long. 10 3/4. So if you have this specific wheel, 10 3/4 is going to be your bolt length overall. That's if you're using a lock nut like this, a flat washer, and then the rest of the setup. So I'm now going to take some of the hardware from the old setup because I didn't buy 100% all new stuff. So we want to make sure that we have one of our custom drilled washers on the back side there. So I got 3 of them in. It turns out the top one, there's not enough clearance to get it in there. It's just a bit too long. So we're gonna have to go in from the front with that one and then place our washer and lock nut on from behind. It just kind of sucks because now I'm worried about damaging those threads trying to get this thing tightened again. But I'll hold it near the end, and if need be, I guess I can try to run the tap over it. Hopefully we can make this work. All right, we'll call that good. And it looks like my thread's got a little messed up. We'll try putting one of these nuts on here and see if it will go over it or if I'm gonna have to try to get the die on there. I know it's a bit rough. I'll run the die over it. All right, so this is less than convenient. I ran the die over that, so it should work out now. Luckily, I hopefully won't be having to take these on and off too much. If I do, who knows? I could probably just leave the studs in there. I can still get to those wheel bolts. So, but anyway, I'm gonna put my, actually I probably don't have to use this larger nut as long as this one will fit on. Which it just barely does. So I'm not gonna use this big nut like I had last time to go over the threaded portion. I'm just gonna use that. That one actually for sure is a 1/2 inch washer. The reason I didn't use those on the backside though is because I don't like how close that is. I wanted to make sure I had plenty of clearance, so I drilled my own. We're gonna get it to that stage for the other other three. Okay, now that they're all in, we need to tighten them down. So I have this 3/4 inch. This is actually a flare nut. A crowfoot would work also. And then I'm going to use the 3/4 again on the back to back them all up. All right, it might actually either be worth putting that spacer bolt in there like I had before, or trying to wrench this from the backside. I'm gonna grab some extensions and get these all tightened down. This isn't complicated. There's just not clearance with this portion of the wheel where it kind of bulges out. All right, so it is way easier to just wrench it from the back. Just be careful what side you put your crowfoot wrench, because being that close, I kind of nicked a little bit of the paint on the wheel. So I just touched it up a little bit real quick, just to stop any corrosion from happening. So now we're going to place on our first weight. Like such. Should be nicely centered if you look right at it. It hangs down a little bit, so when tightening it, you might want to try to pick up a little bit, but it should be good. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. I bought hardware enough to put a lock washer and a nut on to hold this one on separate from the outer weight. So essentially, I'm going to use what we had existing. And thread that on. My only problem I see now is I don't know that I'm going to have a wrench, or not a wrench, but a socket long enough for that, so I'm not even going to try. But hey, that's all right. That's why I do this in the first place. To see what problems we may have. And then, you know, at least the outer one will be bolted on completely, so I just got to try to get that one out. That's going to be fun. Slide that back out just a hair. All right, there we go. I would like to have had bolted that on first though, just to make sure that it stays solid in place. I ended up finding this go-through ratchet that I somewhat forgot I had, but it just so happens that a 1/2 inch will go through it, and the extension that it comes with actually has a 3/4 size on it. I think there's a 3/4 socket that will actually go in this. Can't find that, still looking, but this will work. Is this overkill? Yeah, probably, but there again, having 4 studs as opposed to just 2 is a bit overkill. But I'm a happier camper now because this is centered a lot better. So then we'll go ahead and add our second weight. Like so. And you can see we have plenty of stud space hanging out. Go ahead and thread these on. So I will have to grab a 3/4 deep wall. These are just a little bit long, I think, for a standard 3/8 or 3/4. I mean, yeah, that's gonna not fit. Do the last 3. So I ended up actually using this piece of steel on top of that jack, and then I just kind of used it to help push up on that bottom stud to help kind of raise those weights into position. Just the jack on here only really moved the front one, not necessarily the inner weight. And even then, the inner weight's still not perfect. So that'll drive me a little bit crazy, but there's not really any other better way without being able to position that one by itself. So our last little step is going to be just finish it off with the nice yellow caps. So these ones I found, can't remember if I found them on like eBay or where, but bought like a massive pack of them. So I got plenty, even if they fall off. Now there is a little bit of a space here, so I'm kind of glad I added the little bit of extra. It probably would have been just touching that nut if not, had a little bit more room had I cut that at my original mark. But I'm happy with that. There's a little bit of excess. I know they're on there all the way. So looks pretty good. So at this point, you're just going to do all those steps, of course, on the other side. And now you have 200 more pounds of weight on your tractor. So if you have any questions about anything, of course, let me know. This isn't super complicated, but as I stated in my previous video about adding 1 weight to the X580, I think this method's a lot better than whatever John Deere has. I honestly didn't even look at an install kit for weights for this. All I did was just buy an extra set of weights so that I could put 2 on each wheel. So at that, thanks for watching. If you have any comments or anything like that, feel free. If you have any questions, feel free to email. But other than that, have a good one.